Final seconds of the game, a chance to score, and the chance has gone begging. If your business's commerce platform keeps missing the target on golden opportunities, get the MVP you deserve. Get Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform revolutionizing millions of businesses worldwide. Whether you're a garage entrepreneur or IPO ready, Shopify is the only tool that you need to start, run, and grow your business without the struggle. Shopify puts you in control of every sales channel. So whether you're selling signed football boots from Shopify's in-person POS system, or you're vending vintage shirts on Shopify's all-in-one e-commerce platform, you are covered. And once you've reached your audience, Shopify has the internet's best converting checkout to help you turn them from browsers to buyers. What I love about Shopify is how, no matter how big you want to grow, Shopify gives you everything you need to take control and take your business to the next level. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the US. And Shopify is truly a global force, powering Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across over 170 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning help is there to support your success every step of the way. This is Possibility, powered by Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/ranks, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/ranks to take your business to the next level today. That's shopify.com/ranks.
Hello, this is international football commentator Derek Ray, and you're listening to the Ranks FC podcast.
Hello, Rank Squad, and welcome to Ranks FC, your favourite football podcast, back for another week and back talking about the European Championships, where we have a Final 8. My name is Jack Collins, and I'll be your host today. Please excuse the scratchiness in this voice. Glastonbury was a lot over the course of the last weekend, but I'm excited to be back, having caught up on everything and watching the football all the way through to the end now. We're going to be talking about that last 8 and giving them a ranking, a bit of an old school episode here. I'm in London, but one man who isn't in London is Mr. Dean Jones, the transfer guru, who is now in San Diego.
Hey, buddy, how we doing, man?
I was hoping you were going to go for it. That's good.
Oh, mate. Yeah, been singing Star Spangled Banner every night. Just dressed in red, white, and blue. Constantly, but especially last night when I was watching the USMNT game in a bar. First time I've gone and done that. That was a disaster, wasn't it? But never mind. Yeah. We've gone into some detail in that loss to Uruguay and the elimination from the group stages of Copa America on Patreon. So I won't go deep into it now, but if you do want to hear more about that, the episode is out over there. And I think it's fair to say that in the aftermath of this elimination, we'll be talking a lot about Greg Berhalter probably/hopefully leaving his job, and probably/hopefully being replaced by somebody a lot better in time for the World Cup.
Yeah, it was a tough weekend for USMNT fans, and we had a lot of comments from our Patreons. We had a lot of complaints, most of them centered around Berhalter and not being able to get the best out of this group. I don't think it was all about the Uruguay result in that regard. No. A lot of this was to do with the Panama loss and how that played out. But generally, I think that there's been pretty much one man that this ire from USMNT supporters has been directed at. So yeah, we did a full episode of Postbox this morning where we talked about all of the USMNT stuff and a bit more of the Copper as well. So if you do want to check that out, the link, as ever, is in the description. But we're on the Euros today, DJ.
We are.
And we're going to dig in to the last 8. We're going to be giving them an old school ranking. And I think our rankings here are going to differ quite dramatically.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I'll be honest, I think that this competition is too unpredictable to sensibly be able to predict who will win it. So when I rank them in my head now, I'm just trying to be logical about it and be like, well, who should win it? Who should win their games? Rather than thinking, oh, Turkey, they could win it. They won't win it.
I think for the first time in a long, long time, we're at the last 8 of a competition where I can genuinely be like, I could see every single one of these teams winning it. Now, obviously,
well, that's not supposed to be the case, is it? Like everyone said coming into this, we'll never see a Denmark again. We'll never see a Greece again. Do you think we might then?
I think it's very possible. Now, obviously, I think there are degrees of likeliness to all of it. And I think that what we've seen, and we'll come on to it, but I think 2 teams stand head and shoulders above the rest of the pack.
England have been good, yeah. England have been good.
Just in terms of where they stand in relation to everybody else. But on the whole, like, you watch that game today, and before this, if I'd ranked the teams before the last 16, Austria would have been about 3rd. Because this Austria side have shown the capability to bounce back from an opening day loss to go and win the group, but have shown the capacity that they can hurt teams, and now they're out. And we've just watched an absolutely phenomenal game between Turkey and Austria that was determined by, a lot of set pieces, but also some incredible goalkeeping from Turkey towards the end of that game. And so we're kind of looking at it and thinking, well, what would constitute from this last 8 a Greece or a Denmark? Is it only Switzerland and Turkey? Would everyone else be, okay, that's just fine? Even though we've not seen the Netherlands really.
Netherlands maybe, because they were, I think coming to the thing that I think that's the closest you could get to considering someone as a dark horse / underdog who could actually go and do it. Them and Spain sounded ridiculous, but no one was giving Spain a chance of winning this tournament, really. So I'd say like Spain were like there, but they've obviously got recent history of winning it, whereas Holland haven't. And the Netherlands winning this competition, it's not obviously the levels of Greece, whereas Turkey or Switzerland's just nuts for them to go and win this. And as well as they've done, you're now in there with the big boys, and there's 3 massive games to win, and that's why I find it hard, because it's well and good, going and winning this last 16 game, beating Austria, but as much as I respect what you've just said there, and you would have ranked Austria at 3, it's Austria, and that there comes with any country that has some pedigree, a fear factor, a likelihood that you start to play within yourselves a bit more, or you retreat and you concede a late goal. Kind of like what happened with England the other day. Obviously didn't deserve to win their game. But when you're playing against them, when you're Slovakia, you retreat and you give up more and more space, and you end up basically in your own net eventually. So that's the problem I have with backing any real rank outsiders.
Okay, all right. Well, let's get stuck into it, shall we? And let's start at 8, because I do have Turkey at 8. Not because I don't think they were brilliant tonight, because I thought they handled it really, really well. But equally, I do think Austria was slightly wasteful in front of goal. And having seen that Turkey performance, well, pretty much in the flesh from Dortmund when they lost 3-0 to Portugal, I have real rank concerns about the fact that they might implode at any moment. Now, that isn't to take away from the fact that they were excellent tonight. Their fan base is absolutely incredible. This next game is going to be in Berlin, where, again, there is a huge Turkish population who will be backing their side to the absolute hilt. But I just wonder at some point, if the pressure becomes a little bit too relentless, whether this side might implode in on themselves once more. And I have gone for them 8th here. Again, not to say they have no chance of winning it, because I think they always do. But I think that just in terms of what we've seen from them across the 3 games, or the 4 games now, we saw that game against Georgia where Georgia were incredibly unlucky not to get an equaliser in that game. And then they went and scored on the break late on and won that game. Look, credit for going and winning it and taking that break and taking that opportunity. But the game wasn't necessarily as 3-1 as perhaps the scoreline came to be in the end. Then the complete capitulation against Portugal, and yes, an important win against Czechia, and an even more impressive win tonight. I just think they've been more up and down than almost any other side on this list.
Yeah, I mean, we said coming into it that Turkey had big potential if they could live up to it, and they had a really exciting crop, but there was always the fear that they could implode or they could argue among themselves or get too emotional and all these sorts of things. And a lot of that is a bit unfair before you've seen them play, but it's kind of historically what you see happen. I'm glad that they are not just living up to expectations of being an underdog, but probably exceeding it in some people's eyes.
They're just 3 years late for all of our dark horse calls last time. They just needed a bit more time to mature.
Yeah, but I guess that they always concede, so that's a slight problem. So they've got to go and at least score 2 goals against Netherlands. Now, obviously, they have scored a fair amount of goals. I mean, Portugal game is the only game when they haven't scored.
Yeah,
but you could also argue that Portugal are the only good team they've played. They've played Georgia, Czechia, Austria. That obviously sounds very harsh, but if you were coming into
only major nation,
only major team, yeah. And the Netherlands are a step up from all of those 3 teams. So, I mean, personally, I'd have had Switzerland at 8, but I understand why you'd put Turkey there.
Okay, all right. I mean, yeah, I think you're going to be quite surprised with where I have Switzerland, but we can come on to that.
Oh my goodness, what are we getting into here?
Well, we're getting into a ranking, Dean. That's what we always do. But that's how things are. All right, let's move on then, and let's go into a major nation because it's 7 out of Portugal. Now, not only do Portugal have France up next, and we'll come on to the French and where they stand and what they're about at some point, but I think in terms of you look back at this group stage. Now, obviously, they'd won the group after 2 games. So the game against Georgia, I think you can reasonably write off as a separate point, right? You can look at that game in complete isolation. It wasn't, wholesale changes, but it was a lot of changes. And there was the ability to give other players a little bit of a go. And Georgia had everything to gain and very little to lose by that point. I think that you can kind of ignore largely the game against Georgia at that point. So I'm kind of writing that off. You go back to that Turkey game where I thought that Portugal played really well and I was excited about seeing them come into it. And especially I thought in the first half, they really kind of opened out and they were playing some really nice football. Now, yes, okay, the second goal is a gift and the third goal is potentially a mistake from the defender that opens the game up to be killed off. But generally on the whole, I thought Portugal good there. Against Czechia, they were the better side, but they left it incredibly late. And it took Chico Conceição coming on and scoring a very, very late goal for them to win that opening game. He came onto the game against Slovenia, and I thought Portugal started quite well. What worries me about this game is that in the second half, Portugal lost all of the attacking flair that had got them to that point and had them actually doing really well. And they started lobbing crosses into the box for Cristiano. And at that point, I think Portugal become incredibly one-dimensional. And I think that the whole point about what Martinez had got them playing like and being able to play around Cristiano rather than just to him in one way had really started to open them up as a side. It really started to get the best out of other players in it. What's incredibly worrying about that game is that I think that Portugal shifted into that shell of themselves version that we saw at the last World Cup, where they only had one method of trying to attack. And I think it doesn't get the best out of players like Bernardo. I don't think it gets the best out of players like Bruno Fernandes. I thought Rafael Leao was really, really good in the first half of that game. And the fact that he was pulled at halftime confused me immensely. The fact that Vitinha came off after being excellent in the first half confused me immensely. And I wonder if you just get to that point and if they get to this game against France, if they're going to panic. And a bit like we said about Belgium a couple of weeks ago, when Belgium were under the cosh, they dropped De Bruyne deep and started getting him to sort of launch balls forward from a more kind of deeper in midfield position. And that's exactly what happened to them again. And they were found out in terms of not being able to create anything. And I really, really worry for Portugal that unless they can sort this kind of one-dimension issue out, they're going to end up with the same whole thing again.
Yeah. I mean, there's a Ronaldo-shaped problem within the team because people are confused as to whether he is the problem. Ronaldo's obviously got to play. It's just a case of how you use him. I think so far he's only missed about 25 minutes from the 4 games. Got subbed for Gonzalo Ramos at one point. But he'll obviously start this game against France, and you wouldn't be able to leave him out. There's probably something in his contract, which he's probably the only person to have in international football, that he has to start any major game. Should he? I don't know. Is Ronaldo better as a starter or better as a finisher? Do you want him on there for the end of the game? Or is the problem, like you say, that you're chucking balls towards him because he's Superman? He's the guy that does come to the rescue. He's the guy that wants to come to the rescue. He didn't come to the rescue. He missed a penalty that should have wrapped up the game. You would have been confident that Ronaldo would score that penalty. So he can't always do this. But his reaction to it tells you something as well. And he's maybe too emotional at this stage. This is his last Euros. And it's obviously difficult to take Ronaldo out of a game when you need a goal because it doesn't make much sense. But it might be to the detriment of the team to leave him on there because there are plenty other routes to goal that could be much more productive and loose and, yeah, I would say more comfortable. So
I think this is it. My problem isn't necessarily with him starting because I don't think, I like Gonzalo Ramos, and anyone who's been listening to this for a long time will know that he's a player that I enjoy watching, and I think his potential is very, very high. But also, I don't think he might not be the answer right now. My problem with when Ronaldo starts isn't what he's doing necessarily.
Yeah.
It's what everybody else seems to revert to when he's on the pitch. And actually, I thought Portugal got through this. I thought Portugal had got to a space they were like, okay, he's still there. He's still the talisman, the target man, the player playing through the middle for us. But there is more expression and space for senior players. This isn't, 21-year-olds who get to that point in international football and like, I probably should give it to him. This is Bernardo Silva and Bruno Fernandes. These are players who are superstars in their own right, who captain club sides, who have, been in Ballon d'Or lists. And I think the issue is that we are now getting to a point where those players are getting stifled by the fact, or maybe it's a mental block in their own heads or whatever that looks like, that they're like, oh God, we've just got to swing the ball into the box and try and get Cristiano to head it. When I think Portugal are actually a much better side when they don't have that, one-dimensional
Well, that's
attack.
a terrible tactic, especially like in a game like Slovenia, because they're ready for that. They want you to do that.
Yeah.
You're a centre-half playing an international football. I mean, the one thing you're going to be good at is headed clearances, probably. Like you've been doing it since you were 7 years old. So it's just a poor old-school tactic. Whereas if you've got the guile of Jota or Leao or Bruno Fernandes or whoever, any of these guys, Bernardo Silva, it's unpredictable. That's the thing. They're losing that unpredictability, which was one of their biggest strengths coming to the tournament. First two games, they were the team I had down to win it. And I also now have them 7th. I don't see them getting past this game, basically. I don't think that this Portugal team, I'm not saying that this is the greatest version of this France team that we could have seen at the tournament, but I also just think that they're too professional to lose to this Portugal team.
They've conceded one goal and it's been a penalty, right? So we're at that point, and I don't think Portugal have enough avenues to goal right now to actually do anything about it. They should do.
And maybe it's a Martinez problem as well as a Ronaldo one, Maybe he's going back to those old Belgium days and having the same old problems.
Yeah, perhaps. All right, let's come on to number 6. You're not going to like this. This is where I have England.
I mean, it's nonsense, isn't it?
I don't think it's nonsense, no.
Of course it is.
Nonsense. I don't think you can watch these England performances and have them any higher.
We are the team most likely to be in the final of the Euros.
I disagree with that.
Why?
Because I don't think this side of the draw is as easy as you think it is.
Mate, to have a path to the final and only the teams you've got to beat over 2 games is Switzerland and then Netherlands or Turkey to get to a European final. It couldn't be any better.
100%.
You couldn't hope for more than that.
100%. But what
so the way I
suggest that they're going to be
because they're getting the
prize of those.
Look, I'm not going to defend the football, but they're getting it done, and they are getting it done. And teams are not blowing teams away like you might expect them to at this tournament. And I don't know. I would not have us in that position because there's too much about them. And I tell you what, also, I think will help England, which is stupid, but there's this friction now between the team and everybody that supports the team. And
that's always gone really well in the past, really.
It's like the players are like, F you lot, we're going to win this 1-0 and you're going to hate it, but we're going to do it. And then you're going to be like, have to come and watch us in a semi-final against Turkey or whatever. I just think the reason that you can't have us at 6 is because our path to the final is too accessible. That's my logical thing, and that's why I would have England much higher. Not because I think that we're playing great.
All right, that's fair enough. I mean, let's do these together then, because I've got Switzerland at 5. Because I think Switzerland's performance, I thought they were the better side as they drew 1-1 with Germany. I thought they blew Hungary away in the opener, winning that one 3-1. And their performance against Italy, I think, is arguably the best single team performance we've seen at this tournament, full stop, in terms of what they did against an Italy side that, okay, fine, aren't particularly on their best form, but they literally failed to land a blow on this Swiss side who dominated from almost the minute go. And I think that when you're looking at the balance of this side, the fact that everyone's dialing in together, the experience of Freuler and Xhaka through the middle of this that are guiding this team through, the fact that they're able to switch it up, the fact that they've been able to mix the players up and mix the systems up in order to be able to complement themselves against different opposition. The back line of Shara, Kanji and Ricardo Rodriguez, who's still knocking about, and Jan Sommer, who we said at the start of this might be the Swiss one, might be the best team of the tournament in terms of a goalkeeping selection. Dan Ndoye has been showing at this tournament exactly what he's been showing all year in Serie A, that he is a one-man game changer. And everything is more than the sum of its parts. It's like the exact opposite of this England team right now. And I absolutely appreciate the fact that, you're going to say, well, England have a history in the last couple of tournaments of going deep into them, and they know what's required of those moments. And on paper, it doesn't matter how good this Swiss side is, the England side is better. I think that's all fair. But what I've seen from this team so far in this tournament, having watched, all of their games and watched the way that they've developed different problems. In fact, weirdly, the weakest game that Switzerland had was the game against Scotland, and they still probably should have won it at the end of it. So you now get to this point where this is a side that have shown us in every game so far that they are a very good side and they're able to build through. They're more than some of their parts. The midfield works really nicely as a 3 with Abisha coming in off that left-hand side and filling into the gaps. All of it just feels like it's set up to cause bigger teams with star names problems. And the way they blew Italy away, honestly, I was taken aback by how good they were. And that I said ahead of this tournament that I don't like the way that the Swiss play football. And yet, having watched them, it's very, very hard to not like what this team's about.
Yeah, look, of course I'm going to back England. I am, because I do think we'll beat them. But I am not taking it for granted that we beat Switzerland. I want to be clear that I'm not being all patriotic and we won't lose this one, because I'm very aware that we could easily do it. You've only got to go back to the last Euros when Switzerland beat France, right? Obviously, an amazing game, ends 3-3, Switzerland win it on penalties. And I am very, very aware of the fact that it would not be the biggest surprise in the world for England to lose this game on penalties to Switzerland. That could happen for sure. But I have to back England for a close win. It's going to be narrow. It's going to be tight. It's not going to be fun to watch. Said on Patreon earlier, I don't know if I want to go to watch this in a bar
at 9 a.m. It's going to be
at 9 a.m.
different, to watching it.
It's different, yeah. I think people are forcing themselves out to watch these games. I also said I think there's a lot of the celebrations have been a bit forced, and I don't trust them in terms of the performance, but I'm starting to trust them in terms of the results, and it just might be a scrappy win. But you're right, Switzerland, obviously, to beat Italy 2-0 was a good result. I said Italy would go out in the group stages. Yeah. I didn't fancy Italy coming into it. So, again, I don't know how good a result that is, because I don't think Italy are very good. And then I look at, Switzerland drew with Scotland, who were the worst team in the tournament. So,
They were.
It's going to be close.
Poland were the worst team in the tournament.
Okay. But it's close. It's close. I would have them at 8 just because I don't see them getting past England.
Fair. Well, my 5 and 6. So that's where I've got them. But again, I don't think there's much between those teams. And to be honest, I don't think there's much between the teams that I've got sort of 4, 5, 6. Actually, maybe even 3, 4, 5, 6. I think it's all quite tight in that gap. But we're going to move from 4 onwards after the break. Welcome back to Ranks FC, where we're doing the ranking of the quarter finalists at Euro 2024. And we're on to number 4, which, Dean, is where I have France.
Me too.
And
me too.
This is a funny one in that France have conceded 1 goal in this tournament. It was a penalty against Poland, which, in my opinion, shouldn't have been retaken. I don't think you can call that, as a retake for the keeper coming off his line with that ridiculous stutter step that Lewandowski did. I think it's deeply unfair. But it is what it is. So you kind of get to that point and you're looking at this France team who dispatched Belgium 1-0 with a late goal. It wasn't a great performance. And to be honest, France haven't been great throughout this tournament. But I think the difference in this is that France have won a World Cup with a lot of this squad of players and this manager in recent times, which means that I give them the benefit of the doubt a little bit more than I do to someone perhaps like England. I do think this back line has been really, really tidy. I think that France have got their defensive unit really, really solid. And they're starting to work out what this midfield needs to look like in order to carry on going through. I do think they need to sort some things out. The Griezmann issue seems to have reared its head again in terms of where he is sitting with Deschamps and where he fits into this side. They need to work out exactly how they play with Mbappe, because I don't think him playing through the middle in that final group game against Poland was the answer by any stretch of the imagination. They haven't seemed to have worked out that centre forward position. And we haven't seen any Olivier Giroud yet. So that's going to be interesting to see.
Mate, I was going to back him for the golden boot at the start of the tournament. So I'm glad I didn't do that.
Yeah, I'm glad you didn't. It was that would have
been. Although
I
could actually still probably do it if he played the last 3.
Well, he might do. And I wonder if Deschamps actually turns back to him because it starts to get the best out of some of his other stars, which he just doesn't seem to be getting right now. But, all that aside, France haven't been great. They've not been bad, but they haven't been great at all. And I do think that there is a sense here that when they come up into their, if they get to the semi-final, it's going to be a real test of actually how good this France side is. And if they've just been not necessarily holding back, but waiting for the big moments to come in order to actually arrive at the tournament. And I do wonder if, the control and impact that they showed in the late stages against Belgium was maybe a sign of that starting to come to the fore.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, at least there's been some sign of it. I mean, I have a problem. It's like what I've said this with England, and I guess it could be the case here too. You can't just turn it on and turn it off. You can't go from England's level to producing like a top level elite performance in the next match. That's
like
not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. France have kind of bridged that gap a little bit now with the win over Belgium. But yeah, there's not signs of them being the free flowing, destroying team that I thought we might get. I've got them at 4 too, but it feels weird because they were the team I thought we would all be talking about winning it at this point. I guess it didn't help with the old Mbappe nose job, but it wasn't a major setback, was it, in the end? So
I just don't know if they're ever going to concede. Yeah. And I think that maybe that's the difference between France and England. And I actually think that comparison, especially in this tournament, has maybe been fair. That actually there is a sense of both sides not being able to get the best out of their players. And I think the midfield felt a bit stodgy against Belgium, which might be contributing to this comparison in some ways. But generally, I think that comparison's been fair. Apart from, I think that England's sort of lack of goals against them has more been to the fact that the people playing against them haven't been great, as opposed to France's, which has just looked really, really sturdy from the base onwards. And I don't think there's been any real problems or huge mistakes that have led to massive openings for opposition. So that's maybe where the difference lies. And maybe that's the difference between 4th and 6th there.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough call, but as you say, the fact that they can shut up games and they've got the ability to just win through one moment, well, they've got the players that can do that. So obviously, you've got to have them in that top 4.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. All right, at 3, I've put the Dutch. The Netherlands are at 3, as far as I'm concerned.
That's where I'd have England, by the way.
It's fair enough. This has been a bit of a topsy-turvy tournament, and it feels weird putting them here at 3 because I don't think they've been consistently brilliant throughout it either.
No.
Equally, I thought they were the better side in their game against France. So to put them lower than France would have been a bit of a weird one in some regards. And I think that might have been a bit of a kind of strange place. But we're kind of looking at it now and kind of, I think that their win today was really impressive. Now, Romania came out really strong. And equally, I know exactly what you're going to say. It was Romania, much as they were good in the group stages. They're still the game you would have wanted as a third place team coming out of a group. And that's fine. Romania came out really well. They pressed really well for the first sort of 15 minutes. And the Dutch had to grow into this game. But I think they have done. And I think that they they're kind of growing into this tournament a little bit. They obviously got the late win against Poland in that first game. Then they drew 0-0 with France, and then they lost to Austria. But that was a topsy-turvy game that I think could have gone either way. I thought Austria deserved to win it, but there were equally moments that the Dutch felt like they were creating things. And I think this is the problem with them. I think they are the strongest side on this side of the draw. I think that they have performed the best in terms of the big nations on this side of the draw. And maybe it's unfair to have put Switzerland a little bit lower, but I'm taking some of your considerations into account, I think, with that one as well. I just think that when you're kind of looking at the Dutch and the fact that they've kind of worked out what's going on in the midfield now, they had to do that on the fly because obviously all of the injuries to midfielders that happened before this tournament have meant they've had to, kind of come into this and be like, I'm not quite sure who's playing where. Jody Schouten, I thought, was absolutely phenomenal today. Tijani Reinders played really well in a slightly deeper role. Steven Bergwijn was excellent in the first half, but had to go off injured at half time. But Donyell Marlon comes on and scores 2 goals. That's allowing Dumfries to fly down that flank because there's players cutting inside off the right. And then you kind of get to this back 3 of RK, Van Dijk and De Vrij. I don't think Van Dijk and De Vrij have been brilliant. I think RK's done really, really well. But I kind of trust Virgil van Dijk and Stefan De Vrij to work it out. And if not, Mickey van der Ven's done very, very well when he's came on, although mostly at left back. There's a lot of talent on this bench and a lot of squad depth in terms of defensive ability as well. So I like this Dutch squad. I think that Cody Gakpo seems to just be able to turn it on. What is it, 6 goals now in 10 appearances at major tournaments? He seems to have a knack for just doing this. I think Xavi Simons has been absolutely brilliant through the lines. And Memphis Depay offers something slightly different up top that also interchanges quite nicely with the fact that Wout Weghorst comes on and just challenges people in a different way. There's a lot of talent. There's a lot of ability. There's a lot of firepower across the course of this Dutch team. And I think that today's performance was one of those that you go, okay, they're finally starting to get things right. They're finally starting to dominate games that we're expecting them to dominate. And right now, I think that they've got a very good chance of being in the semi-final and a pretty good chance of being in the final.
Yeah, totally. They've been one of the better teams at the tournament, and
in sort of phases, right?
In phases, like I think, they've probably had more to back them up than most teams have that are left. And I'll still have them down as being a flaky team. I don't trust them, but beating Romania 3-0, I think they had 24 shots, totally dominated possession, 60-odd%. That's what you need in a game like that, and that's what you should be doing. And I wouldn't have expected England to go and beat Romania 3-0 and put up those sorts of stats. So fair play to the Netherlands for actually going and doing a proper job. Cody Gakpo,
give it about 6.
It could, yeah. But Cody Gakpo's playing well. Xavi Simons, I'm really enjoying. And you got Donyell Marlon coming in and making the difference, and that boosts confidence. The fans are just absolutely loving it as well. So when I talk about, I've got England higher up in my ranking than I have the Netherlands. Maybe that's wrong. Maybe you're right, because there's something to be said for when your nation is fully behind you. If you think back to the last Euros and the feel-good factor that surrounded the England team to help them through to the final, and obviously didn't go all the way to lifting the trophy, but there was such a good feel-good factor that it was coming home. And it feels like the Netherlands are the feel-good nation at this tournament. You're seeing those fans all in orange, bouncing around, becoming more and more confident. They're enjoying watching their side. They're fully behind their side. I think that's going to give them a little bit of an edge. I like them. I enjoy watching them. And I don't... If it's not England that wins it, mate, I kind of would like to see Netherlands win it.
Yeah, I mean, look, equally, I can understand why you have England there in terms of one, being and having.
It's on what it should. It's on what should be. Yeah, it's on, like, the bookies have got England as actual favourites, right, to win the tournament. And I spoke to a guy who comes up with the odds, and I was like, why? Like, what is it? Is it just because of the money? He goes, look, it's half because of the amount of money that comes in on England to win it, but it's also because of the pathway, and that's how you set odds out. So it's difficult. As soon as France finished second in their group, England jumped up because suddenly the pathways look different to the final, and England should make it to the final. We've already seen in this tournament that's not how it works, but that's how my ranking has worked, in the sense that if England achieve what they should achieve, and if the players play that are supposed to play in the way they're supposed to play, that's what will happen. But it's nonsense, really, isn't it?
In many ways, it's incredibly hard to justify. But I absolutely get it. Also, I know what you mean in terms of just like it's a results business, in the words of Harry Kane. And ultimately, while the performances haven't been there, you said it was about getting through the group. Then it was about winning the group. Then it was about winning the round of 16 game. And whilst none of them have been convincing, they're all done, right? And then that's how you have to look at it.
It is, and also England against the Netherlands, to me, would have the feel of a Premier League match, right? That's, and I think that would really suit England as well. So again, like I feel like just in terms of how I would expect that game to be managed and go, again, I think it might suit us, but these are all hunches, of course.
Yeah, I mean, look, I really like the way that this Netherlands midfield has started to ping the ball forward and get between the lines. And actually, it's something that we haven't seen at all from England, right? As in, we're seeing Reinders, we're seeing Schouten pick up the ball, punch it into Xavi Simons, who's turning and getting those wingers into play. They're line-breaking passes left, right, and centre across this game today. Yes, Romania are weak opposition on paper. We know that they haven't been through this tournament, and they've been a credit to this tournament, but equally you expect to be able to find those lines. Maybe that isn't the case in a game against a team with a higher caliber midfield, but equally that midfield has looked really stodgy across the course of England's game so far, so it's quite hard to justify that as well. So that's why I have them higher. I think that they've shown more to me across the course of this than England have, but equally I absolutely take your point. To go into the top two, we obviously have the same top two. Do we have them in the same order? Let's go number one first, where I have Spain.
Okay, where I have Germany.
So what we're both saying is that we think the winner of the tournament is coming out of this game between Spain and Germany.
It's so exciting, this game. It's so exciting because this is a proper matchup against two teams who have played pretty well in this tournament, who have met mostly the expectations that they would have set themselves. In Spain's sense, possibly exceeded them. I say Spain are the better team at the moment, but Germany are Germany and they're on home soil. And for me, that counts for so much. And also, in terms of getting the decisions you want, I'm still convinced that it helps. I'm still convinced, even in a world where you're supposed to all be evened out by video refereeing, I'm still not always convinced by it. And I think that just being at home gives Germany a little edge here. It's very hard to split them. But yeah, I'm at Germany to somehow squeeze Spain out, and it would be very harsh because Spain have been the best team in the tournament by pretty decent margin, I'd say, to be honest. Certainly the easiest on the eye. if you're a neutral, you're probably leaning towards them every time you're watching them. They've got a bit of flamboyance about them. They've got players breaking through. They've got players like Fabian Ruiz who are running games. And someone said on Patreon, didn't they, earlier, like, who's the player of the tournament so far? And there's not one. It's a good point, because there's definitely not a standout player of the tournament so far. But if there was to be one, it probably does come from that Spain team.
Yeah, I mean, I said in response to that question that I think that Fabian Ruiz has been the best player at this tournament. And actually, something that he brings to this team that's maybe a little bit underlooked is their ability to actually hit on the break. And you watch that Nico Williams goal against Georgia, and it all comes from Fabian Ruiz picking up the ball on the edge of his own box, looking up and firing a pass about 50 yards cross field to the feet of Nico Williams, who takes it into the box, does brilliantly, obviously. But that kind of immediate ability to switch play was something that we didn't see from Spain under Luis Enrique. And actually, it's interesting to watch how the differences look from this side, from where they were. And obviously, we're looking at different players wide, and Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams have been sensational, a breath of fresh air throughout this tournament. But also just in the way that the midfield sets up, they are more willing to punch it out for those players to get on the end of. They're more willing to break at pace than they ever were under Luis Enrique. And whilst the structure was beautiful to watch under Enrique, and obviously there is that juego de posición and the way that all works. And whilst, that's lovely and the pass maps are gorgeous, there did feel like a sense with Spain sometimes that you were like, stop trying to pass teams to death and just get on with it and get into the box. This Spain iteration feels like they have the ability to do both. They can suffocate you to death by knocking the ball around in that midfield, and the quality and technical ability they have. They also have one-on-one tricksters who can beat a man and make things happen. They also have a goal poacher in Morata, who seems to be thriving with more aggressive wingers alongside him. They have been able to balance the midfield out with someone who can go long, as much as Rodri and Pedri are so good at keeping the ball and making things tick in there. And the defense conceded its first goal against Georgia, which was an own goal. And so generally, I think, Carvajal coming in, playing in his first Euros, wild, it is one thing. But Lenormand and Laporte seem to have worked it out between them in terms of the way that they get the ball forward and the way that they build. Cucurella having tournament of his life on that left-hand side. Perhaps someone with a higher quality right winger can get at this left side of Spain. But Nico Williams' defensive work rate is absolutely phenomenal as well. And Fabian's quite happy to tuck in there and make things happen as well. I just think that the balance feels so nice. And again, you speak about players coming off the bench and feeling like they're making an impact. Dani Olmo coming on and scoring in that Georgia game is a massive one. He also sets up Ferran Torres to score in the last group game against Albania, which they win with a completely different side. Oyarzabal has had a really, really good build up to this tournament. He's in fine fettle and he feels like he can make things happen. Mikel Merino's had a brilliant season alongside him at Real Sociedad. It all just feels like everyone is in the right frame of mind, pushing forward. And I think that generally, every time you see Spain play, no matter who's on the pitch, no matter who comes onto the pitch, they have that energy and verve about them that I think is probably streets ahead of everyone else, bar Germany.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. It's difficult to split them, and I say they're going to play in very different ways, and I don't know. I don't want to go into German efficiency, but it's obviously something that you wish.
I told you I found out this was a lie. German efficiency isn't a thing, as I found from the train system over there.
Oh yeah, true. So you've already dismissed that, so that's quite helpful. But yeah, it's the thing that I like, obviously, about Spain, and I keep referring to it, is their ability to get at people, and there's not been a lot of it in this tournament. People getting the ball and actually, using old school wide players, but in Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams, you've got difference makers who are fearless, and obviously Germany have Wirtz and Musiala of their own, but I feel like the way that they're playing at this tournament, the big concern for me in terms of putting Germany number one is that I think that Spain have got the players who are less scared to just do it. I think, the creativity of them, the chances that they're making, it's high. It's high. And that's what Spain have always thrived off, like being able to create opportunities, the quick passes, the attempted dribbles, all of these things. It's been very impressive. And I wasn't sure that they could do it because they're obviously so young, the likes of Nico and Lamine, but yeah, I think it's that fearlessness that is driving them on. I mean, look, if we're going to talk about like dream finals, you want Spain to actually get through. You want Spain to be in the final because they're going to entertain. And to be honest, you probably want them playing Turkey in the final. Like that's probably the dream final at this stage, is to see a Spain v Turkey, because you've got a traditional side that knows how to win, but with a new era of players coming through who are fearless and exciting and willing to exceed expectations right now. On the other side, you've got a proper underdog story who are going to probably have to play within themselves a little bit and build a wall to stop Spain killing them early on, but would also have a bit of excitement in themselves to actually get at people because they're a young crop themselves that want to make a name for themselves. So that's the final I want to see, beyond England being there.
Yeah, I quite like the idea of a Germany-Netherlands final. That feels quite special, especially on German soil, that old rivalry between the two nations. There's something very cool about that as an idea. I think in my head, but yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Just a word on Germany. They were able to make a couple of changes for this Denmark game, which I thought was interesting. Obviously, Florian Wirtz came off the bench rather than starting. Leroy Sané started on the right-hand side, gave them a slightly different dimension down there. But the balance and nous in this midfield here now with Andrich, Kroos and Gundogan is so nice. And I know before the tournament you were a little bit questioning of Robert Andrich and what he brought to the table. But I think after what the season he's had at Bayer Leverkusen and having shown it on this stage, the kind of aggression that he brings into that role and what he's kind of able to do and able to free up for everybody else feels like such an important part of this Germany side all of a sudden. They also switched Mittelstadt for Raum, which I thought was intriguing. But I think that two very, very good left back options there, and everything seems to just feel like it's working, this German side. And I've said before, and I'll say it again, I think that Julian Nagelsmann is the best manager at this tournament. So when it comes to actually making a game plan, I'm so excited for this quarterfinal. Not that I necessarily think it'll be a 4-3 or anything like that, but in terms of two very good sides going at each other, a manager in Nagelsmann who I think is going to try and work out a system to get through this Spain team and put them on the back foot. The quality bar should be so high. Now, that doesn't always make for the most entertaining matches, but I think in this instance, we could see something quite special between Spain and Germany on Friday night.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, look, obviously it's the first game as well to actually get the quarterfinal stage underway. So you've got Spain, Germany first up on Friday, followed by the Portugal-France game. And then, of course, the next day, you've got England, Switzerland, followed by the Netherlands v Turkey. So it's two amazing days of football, mate. And I'm excited to see. It won't go the way you expect. Like, there will be upsets, there will be trauma for people out there to go through. Probably me, to be honest with you. Look, just a quick shout out, by the way, and the Ranks FC fantasy game. Big shout out to the current clubhouse leader, Fabian. His team is called Auto Phil Foden. He's romping it at the moment. He's doing really well.
Unlike Phil Foden, he's really
Phil Foden is having a good tournament after all, thanks to Fabian, who's come up trumps today because he had Cody Gakpo as his lone striker, it looks like, as I'm looking at his team right now. Captain's Jamal Musiala, and he is the clubhouse leader as we head into the quarterfinal stages. But yeah, there's it's pretty tight. He can definitely be caught. So keep going. I'm 37th in the league at the moment. After my first brilliant week, it did drop off a little bit, but I've done okay. I'm on 240 points. What's he on?
296.
Yeah, okay. I mean, we've both got a few points to come from today, but yeah, so I'm about 50 odd off of him. But yeah, we'll see. Congratulations so far, Fabian, and everyone else. Remember to keep changing your teams, getting ready for the quarterfinals. I haven't actually used my chips yet, neither of them. So I'm about to enforce one of those this weekend.
Yeah, I made the crucial mistake of going to Glastonbury Festival and then forgetting to change my team for either rounds
Yeah.
3 or 4.
So where are you? Like bottom of the league?
Not bottom, but I'm not miles off it either.
Yeah.
After a very, very good second match day, which brought me back into the conversation for a bit. I've then fallen off again. So sadly, it's not going to be my year, I don't think, in the fantasy football. But here we are. Talking of Glastonbury, in part 3, gonna talk about my time in Somerset and the 3 best acts that I saw in an old school nonsense ranking. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to Ranks FC. It's usually the time for me to enforce some wisdom, but I'm not going to do it this week. I might be in San Diego, but Jack's been somewhere even better, Glastonbury. It's your happy place, isn't it, mate? I'm very, very happy here in California, but I think somehow you were happier in England.
Guru wisdom, guru wisdom, guru wisdom.
Yeah, Glasto Guru coming in, all the fun. Yes, I have had an absolutely incredible weekend, and I think it is the best place on earth. It really, really is special, and I know that a lot of people bang on about it, etc. But I just very much enjoy being on the farm, and then just that kind of session of being there from Wednesday until Monday morning, and it all just feeling, perfect. Actually, I will say this year it did feel a little bit too busy, and there were moments where you were like, "Ooh, a little bit crushy." And Glastonbury is normally the kind of pinnacle of crowd control. There are a couple of moments that felt a little bit harem scarum. So I do kind of hope they have a think about that for next year. And I think it was just necessarily not putting the right people on the right stages. But I saw lots and lots and lots and lots of things. But I'm just going to pick out a couple of them for you.
Okay.
At 3, I saw Block Party, and Block Party were absolutely unbelievable.
Mate, Block Party are unbelievable.
Incredible. And one of those kind of ones that you're like, I didn't know if I was going to go and see them. I loved Block Party's first 2 albums. They were one of my favorite bands growing up.
Mm-hmm.
But equally, kind of get one of those kind of moments where you're like, am I going to go see Block Party after all this time? Are we finally going back to it? Is this what we're doing? I'm so glad I did. It just happened to be with people who were going to it when, before it kicked off, because we went to see Keane, who were also unbelievable, out of nowhere.
I don't think I'd have gone to that one.
Well, I didn't think I would either, but when you're just sort of like, oh, everyone's going to this.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's part of the fun of it. Yeah.
And they were like, I'm going to go see Block Party. And I was like, fine. They were unreal. Absolutely, like, really, really, really brilliant. And to hear all of those songs, it was a greatest hit set.
Okay, perfect. That's great. That's great.
It was a real.
That's what you wanted. You don't want new stuff.
Classics. No.
Mate, I remember going to watch Block Party and their pomp back at V Festival or something like that, and it was unbelievable. We absolutely loved it. So, like, I'd have loved to have rolled it back to some old school Block Party. That'd have been amazing.
Yeah, that was pretty special. Pretty special. The second best thing I saw all weekend was the Mary Wallopers on the Park stage.
Blimey, I don't even know what one of those is, mate.
The Mary Wallopers are an Irish trad band who were on in the afternoon. They were on after Barry Can't Swim, who was absolutely incredible as well. But they're sort of folk music group from Dundalk. They were incredible, absolutely incredible. Things have started off well when they open with, "Oh yeah, we're the Mary Wallopers. This is a song about riding the Queen's daughter," and that's how it began. And it got better from that moment onwards. But saw that with some other friends, Lucy's friends from uni, who I've become friends with over the years. And it was nice because I saw all these 3 things with 3 different groups of people as well.
Yeah.
Bounced between groups across the whole weekend. But the Wallopers took the place apart. Barry Can't Swim was unbelievable, but really, really busy. And it just about opened back out for the Wallopers. Like, a lot of people left after that set, and you were like, oh, cool. So instead of being sort of back right with 50,000 people in front of me, I was bang in the middle in front of the stage in my Limerick jersey, watching the Mary Wallopers, and they absolutely took the place apart. So,
nice.
Yeah, shout out to them. But the best thing I saw at Glastonbury this weekend was Justice, who reunited on the West Holt stage on Sunday night, closed the festival on the West Holt stage, and who just, I think, put together like the coolest sounding set you've ever heard. And obviously Justice were massive throughout the sort of early 2000s. We Are Your Friends was a mega hit for them, and Simian Mobile Disco. But the whole, the energy across the course of this entire set was remarkable. And it was just like one of those where people just didn't stop dancing from the moment it happened. We were sat on the floor and all the lights went out. And I was like, oh, when we stand up here, we're going to be standing up for a long time. We ain't going back down.
Yeah.
And we'd been there, for about half an hour beforehand. We'd got really nicely set up for it. And it was just the most incredible way to end sort of the main stage experience, if you will. After that, we popped off and went and saw some dance music around the tents and in Shangri-La and whatever. But they were the last sort of big act I saw. And it really was a bit of best for last. But it was just an incredible weekend. I've missed out so many people here.
Yeah, I'm sure you have. I can see in the smile on your face as you're saying it all, mate, that it's all flooding back. Do you have this, what's the emotional come down been like for you since you got back?
I got back and watched the entire Coldplay set again and just sobbed for about 3 hours. So there was that. It's hard. Obviously, it's that kind of sense of just being like, oh, cool, I'm doing this. And on Sunday morning, I woke up and I was like, right, what are we seeing today? And the lads were like, oh, it's Sunday. And I was like, no, it's not, it's Saturday. And they were like, no, it's Sunday, Jack. And I was like, no, it can't be Sunday. It can't be Sunday. And you're like, oh no, we're running into the end of it all of a sudden. But I mean, yeah, some really cool stuff. I saw Jamie XX bring out Romy and Ollie brought back, the full XX trio for the first time in ages, which was amazing on Friday night. I saw that with our old Bleacher Report colleagues as well, which was a cool one to kind of be a part of. Coldplay were incredible. I saw Cyndi Lauper, who was very bad. Shania Twain, who was better, and Avril Lavigne, whose doppelganger is doing a really good job pretending to be her. So there's all of that going on in the kind of midst of this. Bombay Bicycle Club were incredible.
I love Bombay Bicycle Club.
I saw Squeeze as the first main act of the festival, who are one of my mum and dad's favorite bands, and they were absolutely unbelievable as well. They were midday on the Friday, and it just sort of went from there. And then every dance act you'll ever think of under the sun, which was just amazing. But it was full on, but really quite special.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the lineup now. I think my top picks, if I'd have been there, Fontaine's DC, I'd have had to have seen. Yeah, I absolutely love him.
Across.
Biro, obviously, one of my best mates, who he loves Fontaine's DC, and he didn't go either because there was something else going. I think it was his wife's pick that night of their main one. He said, "I'm not there. I don't know, was it Avril Lavigne or something at the same time? I don't know, maybe." But yeah, he missed that. But I was like, mate, you're mad. That would be so good. Two Door Cinema Club, I'd have had to see. The Streets.
Two Door Cinema Club I did see, and who were good. Very, very good, in fact.
No, I'm jealous of that. The Streets, I think I'd have probably gone to.
The Streets, I love to pieces, and Mike Skinner is probably my favourite artist in the world, but I have seen them about 24 times.
Oh, see, I've only seen them once, and it was a long time ago.
So I was like, I'm just going to stick and hold for it, I think.
Oh, right, yeah. And just let me see if there's anything else that you... I have to say, the other stage looks like it probably been my best, actually.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Dua Lipa, that's who we saw. Dua Lipa instead of Fontaine's DC.
In which case I was seeing Jamie XX at that point. So
right, okay.
Yeah. Well, I knew that Romy was at the festival as well, and I was like, surely it's got a high chance he brings her out here on the Friday night, and they came on and did You've Got the Love, which was very, very cool.
Nice. Yeah, I've never been to Glastonbury, and I'm never going to go to Glastonbury, so I like hearing about it from you. Who is Soccer Mummy?
Yeah, she's great. She's from Nashville, and it's really, really good stuff. And we've had some of the albums are amongst my favorites ever. Color Theory, absolutely incredible album from Soccer Mummy. But again, it was just one of those ones that clashed with everything. And I was like, lads, anyone want to go and see this?
Yeah,
I don't know who that is. So I was like, oh no, but I think you'd actually really like Soccer Mummy.
Oh, I'm gonna have a little listen. I'm gonna download some Soccer Mummy in a minute. I'm going to watch Inside Out 2 in a minute.
The big one. So
maybe I'll listen to that while I'm inside the cinema while the kids are watching a film. But yeah,
I think you'd like her. That's one for you to go and check out. And on that note, I think it's probably time for us to call it a day before my voice calls it a day.
You've done well, mate.
I've just about held out, I think, for the course of this one. So thank you, everyone who's listening, for bearing with me. And thank you very much, all the way from San Diego, our first transatlantic main feed Ranks FC episode, Mr. Dean Jones.
Wow, yeah, new era of Ranks starts here. Third version, really. We've gone from a 3, then down to both of us being in London, and now a new version where we're transatlantic. But the show goes on.
The show goes on. I've been Jack Collins. This has been Ranks FC. Thank you so much, as ever, for listening to this episode. And we'll see you very shortly, Rank Squad. Take it easy. Peace. Final seconds of the game. A chance to score, and the chance has gone begging. If your business's commerce platform keeps missing the target on golden opportunities, get the MVP you deserve. Get Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform revolutionizing millions of businesses worldwide. Whether you're a garage entrepreneur or IPO ready, Shopify is the only tool that you need to start, run, and grow your business without the struggle. Shopify puts you in control of every sales channel. So whether you're selling signed football boots from Shopify's in-person POS system, or you're vending vintage shirts on Shopify's all-in-one e-commerce platform, you are covered. And once you've reached your audience, Shopify has the internet's best converting checkout to help you turn them from browsers to buyers. What I love about Shopify is how, no matter how big you want to grow, Shopify gives you everything you need to take control and take your business to the next level. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the US. And Shopify is truly a global force, powering Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across over 170 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning help is there to support your success every step of the way. This is Possibility, powered by Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/ranks, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/ranks to take your business to the next level today. That's shopify.com/ranks.